welcome to the latest Hammer Horror in Order, where the whole theme of this series here on YouTube is we talk about the Hammer films, horror releases, and thriller releases in the order in which they were released. So we've worked our way up to May of 1963, May 20th of 1963 to be precise. And last month we talked about Maniac, which actually came out the exact same day as this. It was kind of a double feature. So this month we're talking about The Damned. That's what the title was in the UK, but here in the US it was called These Are the Damned, and it actually didn't debut here in the US until a couple years later, until '65. So, I guess right off the jump, Smoke, have you ever seen this one before?
No, this is the first time for this one. And, this would have been a great segue for... Tiana's not able to be on the show tonight, but this would have been a great segue for me and her to talk about what we thought about Maniac, except we haven't been able to watch it yet. So,
Donnie, I think you and I watched and talked about Maniac last month. I think it's safe to say right off the jump here that I think we both enjoyed Maniac more than we enjoyed The Damned, right?
Oh, without question.
This one I think it's well made in the Hammer way, right? Like it looks good, but the script, it's a mess, and I think because of that, and our, we do a group rating, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. It will reflect that.
Yeah.
One thing we did find, or I did find in some of the background research, that we always do for these things, is that this one actually was originally 100 minutes long, and they cut it down to 77 minutes. So that means there's 23 minutes of this movie. That's a lot.
yeah. Yeah.
That probably doesn't exist anymore. That's just out, so that contributes to this bit of a mess, right, Smoke?
Yeah, I would say so, because I didn't know anything about this going into it. I didn't even read or watch a trailer or anything, so I didn't know what direction it was going to go in. Hell, it starts off with, which we'll get into, Teddy Boys, the 60s British greasers types on motorcycles and whatnot. I thought it was going to be something like a Marlon Brando's The Wild Ones or something like that, like a rebellious motorcycle movie or something.
I mean, it's partly that, but then it just kind of takes a left turn over
Yeah,
to sci-fi.
yeah.
Like that, and that's part of the mess, is that it's two different movies, just kind of like about 40-45 minutes in, it goes from this biker gang type of movie, to all of a sudden it's a sci-fi, or radiation scare type movie, right?
Even three different movies, really, because before it gets to the sci-fi part, it gets to like the romance thing, right? Because sister of the motorcycle gang leader guy takes a liking to this other American guy in the movie, and who has a boat. She basically, long story short, gets on his boat, takes off, leaves the motorcycle gang kind of behind, and then it's this sort of romance of a sort between those two on this boat, right? Them getting to know each other, characterization, whatever you want to call it, before it gets to the next part of the movie, which is the sci-fi angle, right? So there's kind of starts off as this. I mean, it doesn't take long before it settles. The whole motorcycle thing goes kind of away, sort of. I mean, it kind of plays into a little bit later on. But then it gets to the romance thing, then it gets to the sci-fi. So you got at least three different types of movies going on here at one time. Or not at one time, but at various points.
And then shoehorn in this whole little subplot with this artist that lives near this compound, this like military compound where they're doing some experiments on some children. There's this lady artist that lives there that is romantically linked to the guy that kind of leads the program or whatever. But really, in the grand scheme, we don't do spoilers here, so we don't want to tell you exactly how this all ends up. But like that part kind of just felt like unnecessary, like it clutters it up.
Yeah, unless there's some more linking material in that 23 minutes that was dropped.
Yeah, and there probably is. Let's be honest. 23 minutes is a lot to cut out of something. But like Donnie, when we were talking about it beforehand, because like I said, we do a consensus grade here. You said you can't really grade it on something you haven't seen, though, right? I mean, we can only grade it on what we've seen.
Correct. Yeah, I can't. I gave it my rating, but which we came to a consensus, but like I can't give it any more than what I did, even before I knew about the missing, 23 minutes or whatever.
And look, and I wouldn't either, and I'm not giving it any like bonus points per se. But I can maybe somewhat forgive a little bit. Like, well, this explains it a little bit. Another thing that I read too, that I told you guys, that like apparently Joseph Losey rewrote the script 2 weeks before they started filming. So that probably didn't help, right? There's a lot of factors here that kind of work against it, right?
And there's some, I guess you could say some positive aspects. We aren't really going to, like you said, give away spoilers or anything in the movie. But let's just let's just say the ending. You don't necessarily. It's not a formulaic ending by any means. It's kind of not what you expect from this time period. A little bit, on the bleak side of things.
Yeah, dark.
Yeah.
And I was ready to come on here and really like, man, this is like the worst Hammer we've seen so far. Which I still kind of somewhat agree with that sentiment, but that ending
Yeah,
really
it
kind
did.
of bumped it up a little bit more for me. Like,
Yeah,
it didn't.
me too.
It
Yeah.
went from like, man, this is crap to like, okay, well, it's still not great, but at least there was this kind of bleak, dark ending, so something to grab a hold of, at the bitter end.
Well, you'd almost say it kind of falls into that whole sci-fi, atomic horror, sci-fi stuff, right? Although most of those movies are metaphor, like Godzilla and whatnot, this one is pretty much on the nose. Without giving too much, other stuff away about plot links and all that stuff in there, it's very much an atomic horror, thriller, sci-fi type vibe going on in it. But some of that must have been lost too in the cutting room floor because they don't necessarily explain a lot of that, the actual reason why they're doing what they're doing. You just have to kind of deduce from what's going on in one of the monologues that I think I can't remember his name, but the boyfriend, love interest of
Yeah, the guy that's the head of the project. His
head of the
name was
project, yeah.
Bernard.
Yeah, he has a monologue in there that you kind of deduce from that. He doesn't really come out and say exactly what it is, but you kind of figure that's the case. And like I said, there probably is some more stuff in that missing footage.
I'm sure one of these days we'll get around to this on the podcast proper, and we can kind of give it a deeper spoiler dive, so we can go into that ending and talk about certain things. But that's where we leave it here. I think the look of it looks great. The story is just a mess. So I think overall, I think we all kind of agree like this isn't top shelf Hammer. I think it's fine enough, but this isn't top shelf. I mean, we've come to expect a little better.
Yeah. If you're gonna watch it, it definitely is a one-time watch. I don't know that there's too many people that would say this is probably their favorite Hammer film. Although I looked up in the trivia by mistake, I looked for The Damned, and it was 1969 Damned, and apparently Werner Fassbinder was saying it was the best movie ever made, but he was talking about the 1969 movie The Damned. So not this one.
But you did say that wasn't there a band that named
Yes,
themselves?
Yeah, there was. I wasn't sure about that, so I had to look that up because it would kind of made sense to me. But the British punk band, The Damned, got their name from this movie. What punk band and kind of went in the gothic rock, direction and whatnot, various, directions through their career or whatever. But yeah, they got their name from this movie, which kind of makes sense to me with the whole Teddy Boy thing.
Yeah, I could see where like, if that's that kind of thing that you like, that Teddy Boy type of biker gang type stuff, this would be one you'd probably grab a hold of and enjoy. Plus the poster. The poster
Yeah, the
for
poster's
this movie
cool,
is
yeah.
pretty cool, so like I think there are certain aspects that are good, but overall when you sit down and you watch it from beginning to end, it's just that story is a mess. So we came together beforehand and there was slight disagreement here because Donnie really didn't like it. He had a much lower rating than we did, but we kind of settled. We did the average, and we settled on 1.25 hammers, which is the lowest rating hammer rating that we've given out to anything. And we're up to the 26th episode of Hammer Horror and Order, and this is the lowest by half a hammer because the lowest before this was The Stranglers of Bombay, and we gave that one a 1.75 hammers. If you're playing along with us, right, and you're watching these things in order, watch it. Or if you're a completionist and you just got to watch all the Hammer movies at least once, watch it. But otherwise, I don't think we really recommend going out of your way.
Yeah, I appreciate this show for pulling these movies out for me because I mean I've been a fan of Hammer, as probably all of us have in some degree, since the 80s or whatever. But by far, I've not seen all of their movies that they put out, and these early ones, never seen at all before. So it's that completionist, like you said. I'm somewhat of a completionist when it comes to Hammer. I wanted to do this at some point, so I'm glad. I'm glad for this show to get to these movies we've never seen before.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of these, I think that's what we've been discovering right along the line, Donnie. Right, is that like a lot of these we haven't seen. Maybe we thought we'd seen them, but we hadn't seen them. So,
and there'll probably be even more that once we get further into the '60s, a little bit into the '70s. I've seen a lot of those, but I'm sure there'll be gems that we come across, and maybe some that aren't so much gems that are just rocks, that we'll come across down the road that I didn't even know about existed even in the '60s, later in the '60s and '70s.
Yeah, this is also, kind of, we talked about this series, bringing forth movies that for me, like I probably would not have watched, like
Yeah.
I Cash on Demand was not something I would have,
Oh yeah, yeah.
really given any sort of attention to at all.
Even
But
the name, just a name,
yeah,
Cash on Demand. It's probably not something that's going to jump right out at you. I need to watch that.
And I think we talked about that in that episode. We're like, yeah, this name
Yeah,
sucks, but man, this movie turned out to be
it's good.
really
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think that's kind of what's been missing here lately is that we don't have any. We haven't seen Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing for a while in this series, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't think next month. I don't think we're getting them next month either. But hopefully, onward and upward, as we always like to say. And next month, we're going to be talking about The Kiss of the Vampire, aka Kiss of Evil, from 1963. So, to my knowledge, it's another one I haven't seen,
Yeah,
but
I
it
don't
is a
remember.
Hammer horror. So,
I mean, that title is I very well could have seen it, but I don't remember it right now. And I'm maybe watching it, it'll spark my memory, or maybe I haven't seen it. But
so we missed it by what 5 months, give or take, from the sucky summer
yeah,
of a vampire flick crossing over into Hammer horror, but it just didn't work out that way. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We'll see what that holds for us. So that's it for this month. So for the Professor Smoke, Donnie, and Tiana, who couldn't be with us, I'm Josh. We are the All American Spook Show, which we encourage you to stay here on the YouTube channel for all the other series, including Video Vortex and Grindhouse Gutter, and of course, new episodes of the All American Spook Show podcast come out every Monday at 6 p.m. East, so you can get those wherever you listen or right here on the YouTube channel. So stick around and check out all the other stuff, and we appreciate you.